I believe this is a critical housing market update. We have just done something, in my opinion, that we haven't done for at least a decade. I believe for the last decade, generally speaking, it has been a seller's market. I believe that is now over. We have just, as a country, gone to 4.1 months supply. We are clearly seeing inventory build, and we are now in a buyer's market. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean prices are going to crash and fall off the edge? Does that mean creative financing picks up? What the heck does this mean? And what part of the market could we find some deals? We're going to have this conversation with a group that we call the Three Amigos. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Dude, Matt, it's been a decade, man. Do you remember the last buyer's market?
Yeah, I was about a decade ago, 12, 11, 12. Well, so the buyer's market for the where people started talking about it being a buyer's market, right? You and I were buying in 8, 9, and 10 and borrowing from everybody that we could to buy, right? But we were like, the world's not exploding, we'll be okay. And those deals are the ones that were the best. But just the common everyday man buyer's market for investors was probably around 2012 in my area. So yeah, over a decade ago.
Yeah. So Dion, you've been doing this just about a decade. So you might have built your entire portfolio in a seller's market. I just want to tell you right now that if you wanted to grow, buyer's markets are a lot of fun. What say you?
Can you imagine that I might have a contrarian view?
Shocking.
Everybody guessed.
I can name in just the last 4 years, 3 buyer's markets that I've bought in.
Okay.
And then I can talk about some before then, before I really understood the concept. But in the last 4 years, there are buyer's markets all the time. It's just identifying them is what's challenging. So I will cover through this video 3 in the last 4 years that I've purchased in.
Well, don't just leave us hanging. Let's get one of them out of the way right now. What's one of the 3 buyer's markets?
So the easiest one to articulate is watching what's going on with where the workers live. And in 2020, we had a massive shift to where remote work right now, 56% of Americans have to work in the office. That's a big number until you realize that means 44% don't. So what I did is I took the major metropolitan hub of where the work is located, which around us is Seattle or Tacoma. And I figured most people like me would commute 30 minutes to an hour on a normal day. That's just normal 5 days a week job. But with remote work, you only have to go in the office once or twice a week. So now I've pushed that out 30 or 45 minutes further. So this was a buyer's market for investors because rents pushed up because there was significantly more demand, but not for buyers. Because the remote workers are afraid they might get called back to the office next year and have to work in the office full time. So they're not buying, but they can rent further out of the city. A cheaper deal to them, way higher than what rents were in that area, is a deal for them. So I pushed out to 11 new markets, found 2 that I identified where I was going to house hack, so I would like to live there. And I found deals left and right on the MLS because investors hadn't realized how much rents were pushing up in that area and prices hadn't. And so I found actually 2 deals that I just started making offers on that made sense at numbers to me. And of course, I look for days on market. So I was watching how to invest, but also where to invest. And it was a buyer's market. This is investors in the last 2 years. And I'll say it now because I'm not shopping, but Kitsap County and Mason County in Washington, rents outpace the mortgage enough to get a return on a lot of deals in this area.
I love that. That's just paying. I love it when you pay attention. You take actual information like, hey, work from home has exploded. We're not doing it. We don't have to go to the office 5 days a week. And you made some strategic decisions. And again, what's really awesome about that is, again, you're taking Tacoma incomes to a generally new area where that didn't exist before. So you can take some IT worker or program managers making 6 figures to a new city where, I don't know, $2,000 a month rent is nothing. Where if you were local working at the latest, retailer, you couldn't afford that. So, and supply wasn't there. You're right? They weren't building. There wasn't a lot of construction in these 2 new areas. So it just meant more demand, prices go up. So I love that idea. One of the things that when I think about a buyer's market, again, as the guy that kind of looks at, I look at the entire country and then I look at like 2 submarkets, Central Valley and now Vegas. What I'm seeing now, which really harkens back to me, like 2012, right? 2008, 9, 10, 11, those were really foreclosures. All the buyers were gone. It was the best time to buy if you had the
So good.
stomach for it.
Yeah.
Wall Street came in, at least in my market, in 11, and it really was like an earthquake because suddenly things were bought at list price, and the game was over. Good times were over. But you still had what I really remember about 2012 was you had some existing home sales that were not foreclosures or short sales competing with foreclosures and short sales. So what this really meant is if they had to sell, right, not want to sell, had to sell, they unfortunately, given timing, were competing with, some pretty stressed inventory. So I remember many conversations with home sellers of existing homes. Probably many times we're own free and clear. They're like, well, I guess I got to take that number or something close to that. So it was a wild time. What do you remember about that era, Matt?
Um, I I remember doing kind of whatever I wanted. It was awesome. Right when that cusp, like what you said, it was like all of a sudden over. And you're like, oh, you have another offer? What is that?
Where did that come from?
Who would be so rude as to put an offer on something I'm putting an offer in on? But
Yeah.
it's literally, you're exactly right. It was literally like overnight where all of a sudden I was the only one to dance with. There were 55 duplexes in my market on market. Within 6 months, there were 12.
Right.
And I'm like, damn. And now on those 12, guess what? There's now multiple offers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I remember about it. And I think the interesting thing is that, new construction, because there was so much existing construction available, new construction wasn't building anything. But then in
Yeah.
2019, 2020, 2021, guess what happened? They started building a bunch of stuff. And so now in my market, in a market of only 30,000 people, they're bringing on 700 units in the next 2 years.
Oh, wow.
But the best part is they're all super crazy expensive. I love these guys because I get to be the hero to the guy who wants to live in this market that can't afford a $2,600 studio. I get to go, hey, brand new all inside, looks just the same as theirs does. I just don't have a doorman. But you also don't have 143 neighbors. And so I'm renting that studio out. That unit will do, those units in that building will do 15, 16, 17 easily, like breaking sticks. But we're going to, in the spring of next year, we'll push the numbers. We'll say 18, if they go vacant, we'll push the numbers 17, 18, because we know the alternative is $800 more, and is a doorman worth $800 more to you? And 3 blocks. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. But I think that's the opportunity that people don't see now is, to Dion's point, looking at, there's always a great market somewhere. And the other thing too is the asset types change in those markets as well. Is it a 4 unit? Is it a 2 unit? The world changed when you could all of a sudden get 5% down on a quadplex. The world changed.
Yeah.
That opened up the doors for a lot of people to consider that. We're selling one of our duplexes just because I'm like, you know what? It's just like what you were doing when you were talking about, hey, we're going to do Vegas, and we're kind of like plucking them off from the bottom,
Right.
whether it was renewal rates or just, it was maintenance stuff,
Yeah.
whatever it was. It's just like, this one, which one of these doesn't belong song?
Right.
And you're like, yeah, let's sell that one. And so we're kind of going through the portfolio and picking off 1 or 2 at the bottom, stacking cash. And then we'll buy the right assets. We'll be upgrading. We're using this as an opportunity to upgrade some existing assets.
Yeah, the thing about a buyer's market, and again, most people that are following us have only known a seller's market, right? If we rewind the clock to a couple of years ago, if you weren't offering list price, you weren't getting a sniff. If you weren't having escalation clauses, waiving conditions, if you had an FHA or VA loan, you had no chance, right? It was the one of the most sickening sellers markets I had ever seen.
Agreed.
Now, a lot of people don't realize what a buyer's market means, right? You have options, you have time, you can ask for credits, you can get repairs, you can write an offer, heaven forbid, below list price. This is the time where really our community doing the work kind of pays off, right?
Yeah.
In a market where you've got 3 offers in 3 minutes, it's speed and cash.
Are they
I
still In your market, Mike, are they still seeing that median minus home with, I mean, essentially that's still fine. That still flies off the shelf, short, lots of offers, short time on market. Is that the part of the market that you're seeing where, it's kind of like median plus where that's
Well,
happening?
yeah, median plus is ripe for disrespectful offers, but I'm seeing median minus non-perfect sit, which is
Okay,
net
interesting.
different. Yeah, we're
That is net
the
different.
I think buyers, I really do. I think I made a call a month ago that's going to prove really accurate. I think the second half of this year is going to be really slow. The
I
average consumer is pissed off, scared, nervous, whatever it is, and they're like, "I'm not buying, dude. I'm not even shopping for a home."
Yeah.
Right? They're not buying
Yeah.
Teslas anymore, right? Tesla's revenue was down. It's just I'm LVMH. Nope, luxury's out, dude. I talked about in the daily financial news. Even the person that makes French fries is lowering expectations, dude. If you're
Yeah.
cutting out French fries, I got to tell you, the consumer is tapped.
Some might even say median minus goes down 10%. Some might even say that the median price would go down 10%. Some might say that. There might be
That
Some
must
might
be
prices
say
why
that
we
say
that.
had
that.
record high prices in June, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Further to
Somebody
fall,
might
baby.
say that.
Further to fall. Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Dude, your
People are
timing is off. Your timing is off.
it very well. Absolutely could be. Yep. Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, no chance. There's no chance you go from where we are now to 10% below the start of the year. That's mathematically almost impossible. But it's a nice try.
They're cutting out French fries, Mike.
They
French
are cutting out French
They're
fries.
cutting out French fries, bro. So we have a potato of a chance. We've got a potato of a chance.
There you go. There you go. Well, Dion, let's come back to you. You said there were three. You gave us the first. What's the second?
So, so let's put everybody in the mental state of where we were in 2020. World's ending. People don't have to pay rent. You can't evict them, right? And it's not easy to buy, but all of a sudden our cash is freed up. The powers that be said you can take all of your money to $100,000, which for me was all of my money, out of your retirement accounts, no penalty. Yeah, we'll just forget that this year. So you got all this money to play with. Oh, also, we're going to lower rates so much that I'm an investor. At that point, I think I had 7 units. No, I just purchased the fourplex. So I had 11 units. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going to sit back too, just like everybody else. And then this daily financial news guy, who's always irritating me with facts, goes, is anybody watching what's going on with interest rates, and actually run the math on your deal at what we think interest rates are going to be? And we started looking at, the next quarter, the next cut. And I found deals again based on cash flow of the new interest rates and purchased that. I took the 401k money, purchased one of my best deals, my triplex, which I wouldn't have found if I wasn't looking for an asset class that has most of the time been a buyer's market, because home buyers don't want it and investors don't look for it. And it's called a house with an ADU. Most of us are going, I set up my search for small multifamily. I want a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Home buyers are looking for a house. And so they see the ADUs, but they don't want tenants, so they don't buy it. And investors don't even see it because they're not looking for it. And so that's how that buyer's market worked for me. And it was watching those two things: money to play with, and interest rates changed rapidly going down. They had been trending down, but they just all of a sudden went, because it was above 6 in 2018, and all of a sudden it was below 3.
Yeah, it's wild.
Dion, do you believe that there's going to be rate hikes before rate reductions, rate cuts before the end of the year?
No, I don't. So I think there might be rate compression with lender fear going away. Right. But I don't see rate cuts coming down. So like everyone else, I hope they do.
Of course.
What would be funny for me is if rates went down so much, I might consider selling a property. Because what's that going to do to price?
So let's put a number on that. What 30-year money would cause Dion to possibly list something? 5%, 4%?
4. If it hit 4, I know it happened by the end of next year, but if it ever hits 4 again, and what that did to prices last time, right? I have one asset that I'm keeping because of emotions, and I know we're not supposed to do that, but it's the house I kept through the divorce, raised the kids in, kind of thing. And it's my only single family. It's paid off. It's a $3,000 a month Section 8 tenant that I've talked to once in 2 years, right? So I don't have a lot of problems with that house. But I basically paid, I think, $150,000 when I totaled the debt I had on it. And now it's worth about $450,000. And so if interest rates plummet and it goes up to $550,000, I'd be like, yeah,
it's not that emotional
and walk away.
I like it. I like it. Well, I love the fact that you're right. Again, going back to number 2 of 3, your buyer's market. If you can find a hole in the market that most people are missing, you're a hero. And now some of that's because the agent or the listing, whatever it is. I remember one of the best deals I found. Somebody, some I'm gonna call him a new realtor, listed a 10-unit building as a single family home. It didn't show up in the multifamily searches. It didn't. Dude, it was. I remembered. It's 10 units. It was 5,000 square feet. They were all 500 square foot.
Oh,
Listed in the MLS. Listed in the MLS is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 500 square feet. I think it was asking like $500,000. It was like nobody in their right mind would look at this. I saw the picture and go, I think I know this house. Or I thought it was a house too, right?
sure.
But I'm like, that's a building. I'm gonna go drive by next time I'm there. And sure enough, it was a building. It was 10-unit building listed as a single family home as a 1-1 for 500 grand. I'm like, I am the only person that found this. And I think we got that for like 27 or 28% below list price, all because of the bad listing. So if you find a hole in the market, it's awesome.
Cousin Moron's not allowed at the buffet this year. I mean,
Dude, why didn't the seller pick that up? I mean, like, I understand why most people missed it, but if you're the seller and you're like, hey, let me check out the listing and it's listed as a house, don't you like raise your hand and say, fix that, you idiot? But hey, it was all right by me. Yeah. So the other thing about a buyer's market I want our audiences to realize is it's not all about price anymore. Now, most of us focus on price. Most of us want to crash. I want to be clear. All 3 of us want to crash. That's what I think a lot of people don't realize is all 3 of us would love a 25, a 30, shoot a 40% crash.
so
It would be
good.
amazing.
So good.
But sometimes it's not price. Sometimes you can actually get a better yield, cash on cash, return on capital with terms. So please skill up on terms. Understand how terms could just blow up a deal. We'll go to Dion first. What do you think of that?
So that's the power of the buyer's market, is where you can actually set some terms. When it's a seller's market, you're just like, pick me. That's the term. Just choose me out of all of these people trying to get your thing. But when it's that buyer's market, and it might not even be terms that are better than at another time, but you can do things like you don't have to waive contingencies, right? That seller's market. How many people did you hear say, "Oh, just get rid of your contingencies, make your offer more attractive"? I kind of want those contingencies.
Yeah,
I lose
me
my earnest
too.
money if the bank changes their mind, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, buyer's market doesn't always just mean that supply has outpaced demand. It means something is shifted, and now you have negotiating power.
Yeah. Matt, I know you've done a couple of deals with terms. You know, this is what I want people to realize. In a buyer's market, the creative person's rewarded.
Yes.
And a lot of the people just think price. That's kind of like cute. Everybody can write a disrespectful offer, but the creative ones listen to the seller, listen to the motivation, and then write an offer that's truly win-win. And frankly, could be a better yield when you do the math. So, what say you?
I think the other issue too is you find very often it's like people are like, "Oh, I've written 10 offers and they were all disrespectful and I got none of them." And
Yeah.
yep, sounds
Yeah.
right.
The next 10.
Yep.
Keep going.
What
Numbers
do you
game.
think your hit rate should be? Like 60%? No, that's not how this goes. You need one deal. If you had 4 deals on your desk, you couldn't pick all 4 of them anyway. So you pick the best one. The idea is creating opportunity, and that can be done with seller financing. That can be done. I wouldn't have bought the deal that I just did in May was a 4-unit. It was allegedly 4 2-1s. It was 4 2-bedroom, 1-baths. It's really 4 3-bedroom, 1-baths. Number one. Number two is the guy flat out said, he's like, yeah, this is I want 750. And I was like, 750 doesn't work because I knew what rates were. If rates were 7, 7.25, 7.5. It's like numbers don't work. I was like, the only way I can make those numbers work is if you carry paper at 5%. That's interesting. Isn't it though? Let's have a conversation. We had the conversation and 20 minutes later, we were in agreement and we papered it. So 5% debt for 30-year AM. 10 years is when is the next time we can even have a conversation about anything changing.
Yeah.
When those, and agreed, is it it's a slim deal right now. I mean, it's like it's like a Crash Bro deal. It's tiny, it's slim. It might have 5 or 6 points in it, maybe 7 points in it. It's tiny. However, in the next year, it's going to be an 80%. 80%. I'll make 80% more than I'll net 80% on that deal. So I can then at that point accelerate the pay down. But why would I do that? It's 5% debt, not interested. And it's not papered with a bank, so they don't see it on a credit report.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
at that point, that's debt that I love. That's debt that is fantastic for me. And actually it allows me to go do other deals, And so, yeah, I think that creative finance, absolutely. Seller finance, absolutely. It's any way that you can get a deal done where the numbers still legitimately work and you're not like squinting, like maybe. Like seller concessions are off the charts right now because I just sold 2 properties. One seller concession, they were like, we want you to put in a fridge. I like, the house doesn't have a fridge right now. They're like, we want you to buy a fridge. I go, here's the fridge I'll buy. They're like, well, we want this one. Like, that ain't happening. So I gave them a $600 concession towards a fridge. They crushed me. On a $400,000 sale, I gave them a $600 fridge. So, but again, medium minus. So yeah, I think that it's like what we always talk about. It's looking at the markets, like Dion's approach with looking at and making that circle bigger, and considering other markets, better understanding what those markets are. And then it's writing disrespectful offers in MLS, but and Dion, the lazy man method of only MLS. It works. It works. But if you want a little bit more volume, then you start doing a little bit more creative stuff and contacting people with stuff that's off market. Or when you go to see a house with your broker and they're showing a multifamily, I still go to them even if I'm not going to buy it. I want to know my market that well. And then we ask the question, do you have anything else that you'd consider selling?
Yeah.
And he's not under contract with an agent for that. So he doesn't have to worry about losing 5 points on that deal.
I love that. Love that. Yeah. Again, I'm helping a couple of guys in Vegas, younger investors. They both found expired listings. Again, if you want to go find somebody who might want to sell or have to sell, go find an expired listing. And both of them found the sellers actually were neighbors in each case. Both own free and clear. Both sellers want yesterday's price. What I'm basically helping these 2 guys do is structure a deal where the buyers, can get yesterday's interest rate.
Yeah.
Right. If you can structure this, you can do the down payment, cash flow. It might work. Both of them are looking at house hacking, and yeah, I'm helping them try to get it done. It's time to do the work. Get creative, network, look for expired listings. This is the fun time, especially as demand pulls back. Supply is still sitting there. Some of these people have to sell, and it is your job to go find them. All right, Dion, you said there were 3. We've done 2. What's the final one?
So it comes down to paying attention to what's shifting in the market, right? And so the earliest one that was life-changing for me would have been, I wanted to buy single family houses. They don't cash flow in my area. So I switched to small multifamily. And from 2013 to 2018, that was a very easy thing to do. Almost all of them cash flowed. And all of a sudden, one rental at a time comes out in 2018 and the news gets to more people, bigger pockets gets bigger around then. And so it's been a little more challenging since then. But after the first decade, you said it. In a seller's market, what is your friend? Speed. You got to get your offer in quick. You got to beat everybody else, at least get on the radar. I got half my portfolio that way. Getting an offer in quick, getting outbid, and then saying, hey, my offer's still good if that falls through, because they usually did, because it was just somebody trying to get on the list and then beat them up on negotiations, which you can't do in a seller's market. So they'd come back to me. But what I started doing, the new buyer's market, and we've talked about it here, is watching days on market. When I found something that had been on the market, and I originally went off of your advice of tripling what was average. So Beth talks about our area, and I was listening to her, and she said it's about 6 to 9 days. She looked at all the different counties. 6 to 9 days was days on market. So I looked at 30. I thought that was a good metric. And then someone said, most of the brokerages in our state list for 90 days. So if a property's on 91 days or more, it's been relisted. They've talked to the owner. The owner has said, yes, I continue to want it listed. So I shifted to 90 days or more. And buyer's market, because we had all the negotiation power. You heard the disrespectful offer I did. I said my number. I've stayed at it. It was 100,000 lower than their offer, and they negotiated. They tried 4 different numbers, and I said, nope, that's my 400,000 is it. And we ended up settling there. And so the buyer's market can be watching days on market and figuring out why is this sitting longer than normal? Because even in a seller's market, the clean stuff sells fast, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's still there going to buy that, because a lot of home buyers buy based on payment,
Right.
not yield or anything that we're looking at. And so for me in 2023, I closed on this deal in a buyer's market in 2023, which was not as a market-wide thing, a buyer's market, by watching days on market.
Yeah. Yeah. You found a house, you found a listing that the local folks, all the other investors had labeled a problem, right? Once it got to 91 days and relisted, all the investors around you had already looked at the deal. They probably looked at the deal twice. It was in a condition that just made them say no. So they gave up. You came in, fresh eyes, liked it, close to the water, saw the upside, was willing to do the work. You found the number that worked and you stuck to your guns. I think that's one of the greatest examples. You found it was listed at 500. You wrote 4. They came down. You said 4. They came down. You said 4. Guess what? You got it for 4. What's the thing worth today?
About 750. But I went to lunch with a local investor who did look at it and passed. And now that he's seen the finished product and didn't realize they would take 4, I said, well, it was listed at 5 for over 100 days. Yeah. They weren't going to take 5 because no one was going to offer it, because they would have taken it had they ever. So I'm trying to help that guy get into his next thing.
Yeah, folks, go ahead.
Quick question for you. So what I've found in my seller financing stuff has been that they are far more apt to take a lower interest rate than they are a lesser price.
Oh, 100%.
So
again,
this is where we can win better, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you, most of my seller finance deals, the day I closed, most people would say I overpaid.
Yep.
And I mean, the greatest example is that house the guy made me pay 20% more than it was worth. I got for 20%. What he never tells anybody is I got a 1% mortgage rate for 30 years fixed, fully amortized. I won because I wanted to hold forever. Like if I was a flipper, I'd have lost my ass.
Of course.
But I was going to hold it for 30 years, and at 1%, it just doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the really most important thing, is that too often people get focused on price. The buyer gets focused on price. And there's all sorts of investors. And it's not to say let's get crazy and pay double what a property is worth.
No,
but if
come on.
you have a portfolio with other deals in it that are more conventional, you can have a portion of your portfolio where it's like, yeah, I paid 10% more than what it was worth. I mean, on that property for me, I might have paid 5% more than what it was worth, but I gave the guy the opportunity to sign and walk away and just get his payment on the first every single month. I kid you not, I pay him his mortgage payment through Venmo. Yeah. Every month he gets Venmo right out of my account.
Yeah. I send one via Zelle. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that it's a major opportunity that people are going to miss out on, and they're going to be putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. They're going to be putting all of the focus on price and not on terms. And to your point, terms is where you really win and set yourself apart, not the price.
Yeah. And again, so I'm helping Spencer and Jack here in Vegas try to get their deals done. And what I'm trying to get them to understand, they're in their first cycle, right? Going through this. And I'm like, I know you guys think price. I know you guys like this seller financing thing is kind of cool and sexy to you, and you want to talk interest rate with the seller. I'm like, don't do that. Don't talk interest rate. Talk payment.
Yeah.
Right. So again, I told them both, great. Go to the seller and say, hey, I could pay. I'm just going to make up a number, 500 grand. But here's the deal, Mr. and/or Miss Seller. I want to hold this for 30 years. I'm a landlord. I'm going to have to cash flow this property. So given reserves, interest, taxes, yada, 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 my payment to you can't be more than $1,287. Get them thinking about $1,287. And then, oh, by the way, when you write it up, you're going to have to say, oh, by the way, $1,287 is a 1.9% mortgage rate, which again, they might freak out at. But again, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm paying you more than it's worth. I've told you, I've shown you the numbers. I have to cash flow. This is no deal for me. I can only pay $1,287. I've had that conversation maybe 15 times. And every time they end up taking $1,287 because I was very clear up front. I'm trying to help you. I'm going to overpay. I'm going to hold for 30 years. So I don't care if I overpay, but I can't have a payment $1 higher than this. If
Right.
you want 1288, I can't do the deal. It's 1287 or bust.
The other thing
And there's
that's
nobody else they're dancing with. I'm the only
no,
one.
well, it's because you brought them to the gymnasium where the dance is actually happening. You
Exactly.
were the one who got the music to play, and then you asked them to dance. So it's
Correct.
because no one else could do that part of the journey. But I think that that's the interesting part is this guy on my deal, he's making only $500 a month less than what he was making on rents, and he doesn't
Yeah.
have to do any of the bullshit. And so that's what I sold him on. I said, listen, here's what your number is.
Yeah.
And it's only $500 less than what you're doing now, and you have none of the noise.
None of the noise. And oh, by the way, he saved on taxes. It's now an installment
Yep,
loan.
absolutely.
Right?
And I told him too, I said, and property management, you'd have lost that $500 anyway.
Exactly.
You'd have lost almost all that $500 anyway. So these are huge win-wins opportunities for people. And I think now is the time. Let them get that big, huge, awful, ugly, sexy, big number to them that's ugly to you. And sounds good, but to your point, hey, 1287 is what I got to pay. That's it. So my only option.
Yeah,
I think
1288
it's the
is
right
not
way
a
to do
deal.
that deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dion, wrap us up. Where can people find you? Again, I think a buyer's market is here for the average folks. You've clearly, once again, proven not only you're a contrarian, but you are not average. So thank you for your 3 examples. Where do we go from here?
Well, you can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where I make videos that irritate a lot of people because I'm actually proving things like housing is exactly, the literal term exactly, as affordable today as it was in the year 2000.
Mind blown. Matt, where can they find you?
They can find me on the Amazing One Rental at a Time channel with my buddy Dion, who is so beautiful that he's the bald guy without a hat. But you can also find me on, and the 2 guys with massive heads of hair. Of course, we have heads on because this is a job. But you can check me out, Lumberjack Landlord, YouTube and Instagram.
Thanks, guys. You're amazing.
Thanks.